Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is author Avraham Azrieli, and we are going to talk about his new book, Deborah Calling. It is the second novel in the Deborah Rising series, an inspiring historical adventure about the first woman to lead a nation in human history. Well, in the tradition of The Red Tent, The Fifth Mountain, and The Alchemist, this absorbing novel delivers an inspiring story of suspense and adventure in pursuit of freedom and self determination, starring a courageous young woman on her way to becoming the most powerful female leader in the ancient world. Well, of course, listeners, you know that I am going to put those beautiful links down at the bottom because I know you're going to want to get a copy. The website is listed there, AzrieliBooks.com. Facebook, of course, Facebook.com/ Avraham Azrieli. And, of course, on Twitter, it is at the handle Avraham Azrieli. Now, if you're saying, well, I'm not listening on an enhanced version, don't worry. Simply highlight, right click, and select go. It will take you to the appropriate pages. And we have a break brought to you today by music by Take My Hand. You guys are familiar with that song. And let's not delay any further because I'm excited about this particular book and I want you to be as well. So good morning, Abraham. How are you? Thank you so much for being on the show today.
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I want to make sure that our listeners are familiar a little bit with your series. So we understand that the book is called Deborah Calling. It's in the second novel in the Deborah Rising series. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Deborah Rising, the first novel in the series, came out by publisher HarperCollins in 2016. And the new novel, Deborah Calling, came out recently, and now both of them are available either as ebook or a paperback. The story behind them is really trying to solve a puzzle or a riddle about how a young woman was able to rise to become a national leader, a judge, as well as a prophet during ancient times in Israel, about 3,300 years ago. Which was a time when women had absolutely no chance of rising to any position of power, let alone own property, testify, or really have any control over their own fate. So this is an interesting story, and I'm trying to really explain, so to speak, how she was able to do it by dramatizing her story against that backdrop of the ancient world.
Now, for those who may not be familiar, is this a fiction book? Is this nonfiction? So is Deborah real, or is she a made-up person?
Well, Deborah the prophet is a historical figure. There is a chapter dedicated to her in the book of Judges, which is part of the Bible, and the time she existed is during the period of the judges of ancient Israel, which is about 3,300 years ago. And the Bible doesn't give us a lot, but it gives us a beautiful song called Song of Deborah, and some description of how a woman, which there's no description of her origins, her parents, or how she was able to reach such a position, But the Bible just introduces her and says during that time, Deborah was the mother of the nation, the judge, the prophet, and then describes a tremendous battle in which she was able to liberate the Israelites from a very powerful Canaanite king named Yavin or Javin, who was the king of Hasor, which was the largest city at the time in that part of the ancient world in what is now called Israel, obviously. So this is an interesting story. The story itself in Deborah Rising and Deborah Calling is fiction in the sense that I'm dramatizing and imagining really her youth and her young years and how she's able to gain that kind of strength and resilience and smarts really to become a leader. But it is based on a true historical figure, which is Deborah, who is really the first woman that we know of, that we have an actual written record of, to lead a nation in the ancient world, which is very unusual.
So what inspired you to write Deborah Calling?
I grew up in Israel, and I used to hike a lot and tour a lot. I received a very extensive Talmudic education, including biblical history. And one of the favorite sites is a mountain in the lower part of the Galilee, really in the Disrael Valley, where there's a mountain called Mount Tabor, or Tavor in Hebrew, which is very interesting, very steep, and standing up above the Kishon stream or Kishon River. And that is the location of that battle. So I've learned about it as a kid and visited the place, and so some of the archaeological diggings. And, over the years, many years, as I've become a writer and wrote other novels, I've always kind of thought about Deborah as a very unusual figure in the ancient world, a woman, but so brave and so smart. She was able to defeat a huge army with, steel chariots. This was really the strongest army in that region. And she was very clever. She was using recent rains to kind of drive those chariots into swamps created by the overflowing river, and really liberated her people. So this has been brewing for a long time, and now I'm having fun writing it.
Isn't it wonderful when you can write about something that inspires you, but at the same time have a really great time writing it? I think it really comes out in the words that we choose, and the reader is able to capture some of that fun and excitement that you have for the topic.
Yes, there is a wonderful reaction, continuous reaction from readers. I received letters and emails, and it's really, the character is just so fascinating. Young woman in terrible adversity. We don't have to look back to biblical times to see how women are treated in that part of the world. Even today, large parts of the Middle East and Africa, you see women are treated as badly as they were treated 3,000 years ago. No rights, completely subject to the control of their brothers, their fathers, and then their husbands. Multiple wives serving the same husband. No control over their own family, let alone property. Serving as a witness. So you can actually see large parts of the world, even today, where women have absolutely no chance of rising anywhere because they don't have any rights. And in that respect, Deborah's story, I think, is inspiring.
Most definitely, and I think that we've really forgotten about that, and many times living in the United States, that just because we have certain rights or privileges or opportunities, you forget that is not extended to all of your fellow sisters of this great globe of ours, and it just can really sadden you when you think about the opportunities that are not available to some of our fellow sisters. Well, listeners, we need to take a very short break, but when we get back, we are going to continue this wonderful conversation. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. Today, we are talking about a very intriguing book entitled Deborah Calling. It is the second novel in the Deborah Rising series, and we have author Avraham Azrieli on the line today. And if you want to follow him on social media, it is, of course, listed in the description, the website, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, Abraham, if you had one thing in particular that you wanted the readers to take away from reading this book, what would that be?
I think there is an interesting aspect of faith, which does not necessarily mean, submission to a higher power. But what I'm exploring really is how faith, especially in the ancient world, where people have had many gods, they had physical gods, they had effigies, they have, the beginning really, the early days of monotheism, where people believed in one God who was not seen or touched. What I see in some of the responses of readers is that they're really inspired by the fact that a person can have faith not only in a creator or a higher power, but really faith in their own destiny. And this is why the book is called Deborah Calling, because Deborah realizes that she has a calling. She has a true calling. She has a mission in life. She has a higher purpose to serve, which is really to bring justice and honesty and fairness to the society she lives in. And in that respect, I think the gift of finding your own true calling can be not only inspiring mentally and emotionally, but actually gives you the opportunity and also the energy and the drive and the internal source of power to achieve a lot more than what you think is possible. And in Deborah's case, she is a girl and a young woman achieving something that no other young woman or any woman really achieved before her and for a long time after her. And even today we don't have that many political leaders, successful political leaders who are women. So in that respect, that's what readers are taking from the book, is an inspiration of believing and finding your true calling. What is your mission in life? What is the higher purpose? And from that, drawing tremendous resilience and ability to overcome hardship and reach that goal. And I think that's really the key that I'm trying to explore with Deborah's story.
Mm-hmm. That is so wonderful. And I think it's great that anyone who wants to inspire another, to motivate someone else, to empower someone else, you want to spend some time with that person, because that's such a wonderful. We need people to continue to encourage us in all that we do. And I want to say thank you so much for inspiring each and every reader of your book. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And listeners, of course, thank you for being here with me each and every week, for being the great listening audience. So important that you guys are acknowledged as well, because without you, where would I be? So I want to very quickly say thank you to my top listening countries, and that would be the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Hong Kong, Canada, and Israel. Thank you so much for being my top 5 countries of the week. And as always, listeners, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. And until next time, have a great, great week. Be awesome, everyone. Bye-bye.